In the West Bank and Gaza, constant political instability and insecurity create significant practical barriers for small business and discourages outside investment. With the help of our next team, entrepreneurs are starting new businesses and translating barriers into business opportunities, enabling economic growth. Please welcome Uptakepreneur.
Good evening. When you think of crisis, you think of despair and destruction. And in a context like Gaza, Middle East, and even globally, humanitarian organizations continue to give traditional handouts. Today, we have a different story to be told. Uptakepreneur is a social entrepreneurship lab that has applied crisis-adapted solutions that can be further applied by CARE, other NGOs, and private sector to harness market power for social impact, even if in crisis context. Meet Wafa 5 years ago, a mother of 4, a seasonal agricultural worker who did not only survive one war, not even 2 wars, but 3 wars in Gaza. And she was completely dependent on aid from year to year. While this is the story of Wafa, in this moment, 115 million others are living in crisis and conflict context in Middle East. And the shocking projection is that in 12 years, 50% of global poor will be living in fragility and crisis context, the needs of whom cannot be met through traditional humanitarian assistance. That was Wafa 5 years ago. Today, Wafa has sustainable income and she feels empowered. With 100 others, she was able to create the Date Palm social enterprise that is currently producing 15% of Gaza's local production, and that is contributing to the food security of Gaza people. How was this possible? My name is Hiba, and my colleague Anan will walk us through the solution.
Sorry, we did not dance to the music. Uptakepreneur transforms the needs of people, entrepreneurs, and producers like Wafa into social enterprises and market solutions, even in crisis contexts. Uptakepreneur is based on 3 components. 1, our flagship package, which can easily be used by other humanitarian organizations. This puts women in the center as economic leaders and not as recipients of aid. And they are also adapted to crisis situations. The second component is technical support provided to other CARE country offices, humanitarian organizations, private sector, and also donors. And 3, thought leadership, which is extremely crucial for scaling up. And I also should mention that this package has already worked. It has transformed the life of Wafa and more than 100 communities inside West Bank and Gaza. We know that this works. It has already worked for Wafa, like we mentioned before. And it has worked for 70 social enterprises and 30 market solutions. And these social enterprises, they're generating production value of $20 million. Most interestingly, the private sector is crowding in, and they're investing in these social market solutions, whether it is a new farming technology or even an animal feed production plant, where one investor is putting $20 million, not in CARE, but in a startup opportunity that we highlighted that also addresses the needs and constraints farmers face every day inside Palestine. We're also being replicated by other NGOs and INGOs in country. Within the last 5 years, in a very small country, with huge challenges, complexities, including a blockade on Gaza, we were able to impact 10% of the population. We are really ready for scale-up. Within the next 5 years, we and the adopters of Uptakepreneur will reach at least 10 million people through accelerating 4,000 social enterprises like the one was created by Wafa, and social market solutions. We will also uncover and leverage the business power of at least $1 billion and gear it towards social impact. We will begin with a 2-year startup fund requesting $550,000. This will enable us to finalize our open source package so that it is used by other humanitarian organizations, private sector, and also donors. We acquire partnerships with global impact investors, global accelerators, as well as with many other organizations. Beyond the 2 years, we will continue to provide thought leadership to increase adoption, but we will also generate revenues through our technical support consultancy to others with a break-even point in 3.5 years. Wafa has described herself to you, to this audience, as
I'm a powerful, self-reliant businesswoman. I created life for me, my family, and others. I only had nightmares before, but now my dreams are so big and they defy the context in Gaza. Partner with us and with millions of other women like Wafa to stop dependency on foreign aid and scale our tested solutions. Thank you so much.
It was an honor to hear your story. And that photo at the end was spectacular.
Thank you so much.
I have a few questions for you. The first thing I'm wondering about is what businesses you think, especially in the early years, are going to be the best kinds of businesses to come into an opportunity like this?
So if I understood your question is about the potential enterprises or sectors
Yes,
that
the
are really
markets, the
fit.
sectors, the sorts of services and products.
Exactly. So we have been in West Bank and Gaza. CARE International has been in West Bank and Gaza since 1948. So we know the farmers extremely well. We worked with farmers for the last 70 years. And we have the partnerships with the government, with international organizations who know agriculture. We applied these solutions for agriculture. And the needs of farmers are seeds, lack of access to connection to the markets for dairy, for instance. So we worked throughout so many subsectors under agriculture, whether it is dairy, whether it is grains like Frika or Meftool, dates like the one we created, etc. The reason why we're so keen on expanding this is that we also see potential for education. We see potential for clean energy, climate change adaptation, etc. And this is one of the key reasons why we're pitching tonight to scale up to other sectors.
Very exciting. And so when you think about scale, how do you think about employment opportunities for other women? So one of the things I loved about your first story was it was about the entrepreneur, but it was about all those other women she brought along. So I wondered if you could share more about how you think about helping these women business owners to bring all those other women along.
So should I go? With this example only, the women of group, they are divided into different sectors. So there are the producers of date from whom they are actually gathering. And they have also created home-based units that would sort of do an initial processing, but then they have the women that are employed within the processing unit itself. And the amazing thing is that this woman, Wafa, is becoming a marketer. So she said, I'm a businesswoman. What we do is not we only work with them on enhancing their capacities, of course, technically, but business and entrepreneurship, but we also work on it on an integrated and comprehensive approach where we work with Wafa on issues related to leadership, discussions and communications, etc. And we allow her as a role model, we put her in front, and we also engage other men and boys to really support these non-traditional women to actually acquire the support of other male members and definitely attract women to work with them. So it's a very comprehensive approach where CARE has a lot to add. And only with Wafa, for instance, this social enterprise, they are reaching around 3,500 families. So you can imagine. And the minimum number that we reach within even the small social enterprises that we have created is 200.
My goodness. So I know we have to wrap up, but what I would say, if I'd asked a third question, it feels like a model that affects a woman and the people around her,
Yes.
and then her community, and then your nation.
Yes.
And that is very much an honor to learn more about. Thank you to both of you.
With
Thank you.
pleasure.
Really pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.